Okay, it is 7:01. It is what is today? The July 20th meeting of Personnel and Finance, and we'll just kind of start by everybody saying hi so people listening know who's here and who's not. It's Dave Pritchett, Chair of the Committee.
At large, Kevin Stunick.
And Alderman at Large, Tad Erickson.
Finance Director Connie Hillman.
IT Director Sean Strong.
All right, so we got 5 things on the agenda. Are there any additions?
No, there's not.
Let's go to the first item, which would be the approval of bills.
Nothing to note.
Okay, so nothing
I
unusual.
make a motion to approve the bills.
Second.
So we got a motion by Stunick, a second by Erickson. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, goes to a vote, and this is roll call.
Stunick,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes, and that passes. All right, that takes us to our second item, which is discussion of the Lakes Area Media Collaborative. So that would be IT Director Strong.
Thank you. So this is a continuation of discussion from last meeting 2 weeks ago, from which we came out with 3 things to get done for this meeting. Was 1, to find the agreement or contract that may or may not exist, make a recommendation, and then get the steps going to reinstitute Charter's cable channel. Hopefully you read through this at least a little bit. The story is we have most of the hardware installed. We've had 0 contact with Lakes Media. They claim to have ordered the last piece of hardware, but nobody's heard or seen from them. So that's not installed. That piece actually goes in the second floor conference room. So that room's not done, but the council chambers is pretty much installed. A little bit of cleanup to be done. So that's where we are on hardware. Also requests for a contract or agreement have not been returned. So cities or the staff search for a contract has never found anything. We've looked many times over the years and have still never found anything. So I included a whole bunch of snippets from past meetings. From the best I can tell, it was a motion, a council motion to approve a funding request, more or less. Like I said, nobody's ever seen a contract, so we have no way of knowing what service level to expect or how we terminate or how we renew or how we do anything. It's just been on autopilot here for roughly 15 years. So that being said, like I said, the hardware's sort of sorted out. Council chambers is pretty well to go. We have to decide whether we want to buy the rest of the equipment we need ourselves or if we want to just wait for the day that Lakes Media might finally respond. Let's see. So I'll go back to the steps here. So yeah, we do not have a contract. We don't think one exists, but it's hard to terminate it without seeing it, if it does exist. Staff's recommendation would be to either to end the funding agreement with Lakes Media and either put together an RFP to go see if somebody else wants to do it, or at least entertain the idea of doing it with internal staff, or maybe a hybrid of where we get it set up with our equipment. We know how it works, but somebody else does the labor. Something in that category. Not exactly sure how we'd want to go with that. Kind of need more time to figure out how the cable channel is even set back up. The meeting with Charter to talk about the first steps to get it going again is on Wednesday, the 22nd, I think.
Okay.
We've had some phone calls with CTC. They never turned off the PEG channel on CTC, but Charter's of the bigger concern because it's the vast majority of cable subscribers in Brainerd is Charter. CTC is only on the very edges of town. What else can I tell you? Oh, I also included the franchise fees we've given to Lakes Media so far. It's almost $860,000 in 15 years. For that money, we've had maybe 400 meetings televised. So rough math, you're paying well over $2,000 a meeting to televise. I would say you could do a whole lot better almost anywhere. So all that said, the recommendation is to cancel what we think is just a council motion and move forward with trying to figure it out ourselves, I think. There's no Jennifer Bergman here, so can't ask if she's on the same page or not, but He must be at the SPW.
So
Anyway.
Sean, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, go ahead, Dave, if you want. Go ahead.
My question would be, Sean, do you think staff would be able to handle the extra work to get this thing up and going?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to jump up and down and say I want to give away all my Monday nights and all my Wednesday nights and all my everything else's, but we have a couple people, and we could also maybe even offer to other people to do it.
Well, we're spending
But with some-
$2,000 a meeting right now, and we're
Right.
and possibly saving, what was it, $60,000 a year? Could we hire somebody to
Right.
do the
That
video?
would be that's
Okay.
the question we haven't had time to look at while we're trying to put City Hall back together.
All right.
But if we take our time, we could probably do a lot more of this homework and see what kind of companies we'd have bidding on it and whatnot, and what staff could do. I mean, I could do a couple meetings a month. Lori could do a couple meetings a month. Could almost just get away with it ourselves, but
Mhm.
we have to be, she's of course hourly employee, so we have to be mindful of that. I think it would be in the city's best interest to have the equipment be owned by the city so that we don't have any more of this equipment issue. I think the city staff should be well versed in how it works, so we don't have any of that kind of issue either. Who shows up and push the button on any given night and make sure the camera tilts around, that anybody could do that.
Okay.
Have that as staff evenings, or if we have someone come in just for those hours, I'm open to either one, I guess.
Kevin?
Well, you kind of stole my thunder, Dave, but I'm hearing Sean say that they have the staff to be able to make this work, and you can also install it, Sean?
Yeah, it's mostly installed already.
Okay, so that's
Some
good.
touches and testing.
We've been doing this for 15 years with this Lakes Area Media Collaborative and paid them a lot of money. And if it's $2,000 a meeting, we can save a lot of money. I think we lick our wounds and move on and try to find somebody else. And that's how I felt 2 weeks ago.
Dad?
Yeah, much the same thoughts. I had kind of 3 points. One, I agree wholeheartedly. Discontinue funding for Lakes Media at this point. One, let's reestablish the streaming option at least, ASAP. I think everyone's in agreement there. And then, I guess before hearing Sean's comments, I was kind of leaning towards going the RFP route, just thinking I didn't want to overburden staff. Is there anything to having, kind of a third party doing that? But, I guess hearing Sean's comments, if it's something, I don't want to overburden staff, but if it's something that you say, you think we can split up, maybe we start there and then we reevaluate. If a year down the road, it's like, all right, this is kind of burdensome. Obviously we can revisit it at that time. So, I guess, are you ready for a motion?
Well, my one question would be, could we do this? Would there be any problem with us having staff handle those responsibilities now and simultaneously looking for, putting out an RFP so we could see what it would cost, then we can make the decision instead of having that come back?
Sure.
Would that work, Sean?
Yeah, that works for me. I think it's a good time to get it set up so that we know how it works, make sure we know all the bells and whistles, and whether we need to bring someone in to fill the time gaps or not is to be determined. We definitely have the funding for it. So as long as we don't just throw all that money right back in the general fund, which of course is an option, but if we kept that earmarked or whatever for cable, meeting, televising, streaming, whatever you want to call it, there's funds to replace equipment and possibly pay people to do the evening meetings or something, then yeah, I think the setup, although we're got a lot of other things going on, I think it's important for somebody to know here what is going on and not just have it be a black hole, not knowing how it works, because that's what's got us in this position in the first place, I think.
Tad, does that sound acceptable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I have a comment, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm sure Tad will agree with me. He threw out that 1 year time frame. I think this is something that could be going for every year, or not every year, every month for the next 2, 3, 4 months. We're going to know very quickly if the system is working. I don't think we need to take a year to figure that out. And I'm sure Tad kind of feels the same way.
That's fine.
I would say even a few months we'll know how much work it's going to be. We should have the streaming up and going by the next meeting, whether it's just streaming WebEx straight to YouTube or if we actually have physical meetings. Either way, we should be streaming by next time.
And if they're looking for RFPs at the same time, if we get a few RFPs, we can see what the cost is and we can evaluate there whether we want staff to continue or we want to shift the responsibility of filming and videoing to somebody else.
Perfect.
All right. Tad, you ready to make your motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to discontinue funding for Lakes Media. Move forward with an RFP, at the same time having staff kind of in-house get it set up and begin streaming as soon as possible. With the money saved from the funding of Lakes Area Media, reroute that to potentially use for an RFP.
And I'll second that motion. Good one.
All right. We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none comes to a vote and it's roll call.
Stunek,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes. And that passes. All right. You gotta jot some stuff down here. All right. That will take us to item number 3, which is school resource officer contract. So that would be for the amount for the 2019-2020 school year. Finance Director Hillman.
So the school district contracts with the city for a school resource officer. And for the 2019-2020 school year, that contract amount was $75,000 a year. The city billed the school district in June for half of the contract amount. And then staff was contacted by the school asking if the city would consider a reduction to the 2019-2020 school year due to school not being in session as a result of COVID-19. Staff reviewed the agreement that we have with the school district, and we felt that it was appropriate based on language in section 2, and that was attached to the packet. It's kind of a gray area where it says school's not in session.
Mm-hmm.
We did, when the school was closed, the officer that's scheduled to be the school resource officer was reassigned as a patrol officer. And therefore, we feel that the employee's duties were substantially changed, and we would be allowed to use COVID relief funds for the officer's wages and benefits from basically March 16th to the end of May. Staff gave you a couple scenarios there of what we could reduce the fee by. And it is staff's recommendation to reduce the contract for the 2019-2020 school year by $20,000 and then use COVID relief funds to reimburse the city for the school officers' resource wages from about May 16th to, from March 16th through May 23rd as a result of the school resource officers' duties changing due to COVID-19.
All right. Any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Do we have a maximum or minimum number of days that we contract with the school district, or is it just we do?
It's up to
Did
100.
we meet that?
Pardon?
Okay.
Okay.
Did we meet those days, or where were we at?
No. What they did, if you look at the formula that they used to figure out how much it would have cost, they went monthly and they went contact date, and there wasn't much difference in that. And then the reason that they're rounding it down to 20,000 is the officer still had some contact with the school, did some work in there, but it wasn't a large amount.
Okay, and we contacted the school district, and they're okay with that?
The school district would be very happy if we did reduce the contract amount.
Okay, that's all I have.
What would be acceptable? They just said anything would be acceptable. I
Okay,
do know that the
Good
school
question.
district is going to be looking at redoing the contracts as well.
And the question for Connie, then you mentioned that this is reimbursable through the COVID relief funds. Is that 100%?
We would only be allowed, we can't use COVID relief dollars for lost revenue, but we could reimburse ourselves for the officers' wages because they substantially changed due to COVID. So
Okay.
it wouldn't be dollar for dollar, but we would get something for it. I have not figured out how much that would be.
Okay.
okay.
Kevin, did you have something, or was it pretty much that?
No, I'm good.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion to authorize staff to reduce SRO contract amount with ISD 181 for the 2019-2020 school year by $20,000 and use COVID relief funds to reimburse the city for the SRO's wages from 3/16/20 to 5/23/20 result of the officer's change in duties due to COVID-19.
And since you stated it so well, I will make that motion based on what you just said.
Awesome. Okay, a motion
And second.
and second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, goes to a vote.
Stunek,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes, and that passes. And that takes us to item number 4, and I'm going to apologize in advance for butchering this gentleman's name. So street and sewer maintenance 1 employee, is it Deithart resignation?
I do believe it's Dietert.
Dietert. Okay, Dietert.
I do believe.
And that would be city engineer Sandy, but I don't believe he's here.
No, he's not. So I will be taking that one for him on his behalf. So we'll just call him Mr. Daniel, submitted his resignation effective July 29th. And so the motion is to accept with regret his resignation effective July 29th and to authorize backfilling of the position from the same pool as the maintenance 1 applications currently being advertised. So basically both of our maintenance 1 street sewer employees have resigned, and therefore we are doing 1 hiring for 2 positions.
All right. Any questions? I'm sorry, Ted.
Now ready with the motion.
Go for it.
Move to accept with regret the resignation of Daniel Dietert effective July 29th, 2020, and to authorize the backfilling of the position from the same pool of maintenance 1.
All right.
And I'll
Yep.
second that.
And a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, goes to a vote, and this is roll call.
Stunek,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes, that passes. All right, that takes us to item number 5, which is a request for proposal for the 2020 audit services. Finance Director Hillman.
So I gave you a lot of background information in the agenda item. Basically, the last time we went out for a full RFP was in October of 2015 for the 2015 audit. I gave you the recap of the firms that we interviewed, and we did retain Clifton Larson Allen from that time. Basically, the city has had Clifton Larson Allen for auditors for a long time. Staff is satisfied with their services received from CLA. They are responsive, courteous, and thorough, not only during the audit, but also through the entire year. It works well that BPU, HRA, and the city all use the same audit firm, and changing auditors does create an additional work. However, staff realizes that it is council's direction to conduct an RFP and solicit quotes from other firms. That is the council's choice. So basically, if we're going to switch auditors, we need to start working on that now, is the basic point. Yes, sorry.
2 questions. One, CLA, they're local, right?
They have local presence, yes. They have an office in Baxter.
And 2, just because we were to go out for an RFP doesn't mean we wouldn't continue with CLA, correct?
Correct. I mean, when we did it in 2015, we went with CLA, even though they weren't the lowest.
Right. I remember that discussion. Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the HRA would join us in going out for an RFP for audit services. BPU has no desire to go out for RFP services at this time. That was the latest that I had heard from them, last year when we were talking about it.
All right. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Sunick.
I have a motion if you're ready.
I am ready.
I would make the motion that we continue with Clifton Larson Allen audit services for the next, 1 year, Connie?
Yep.
2020 audit.
Yep.
Second.
All right. We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, goes to a vote, and it's roll call.
Stunek,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Pritchett.
Definitely yes. All right.
Can I ask just one question? What would be just 2020, they continue the same service? We have about the same price, or, what would be our reason for continuing with them? Just to be able to provide information to the public.
I think we answered that in our discussion with just consistency they're local, and the staff have been very happy across the board.
Yep, with all aspects. When you look at their prices, they're basically at the same price that they were in 2015.
Mhm.
And I have a feeling if we were to go out for an RFP, I doubt if those other companies are at the same price. You know, they've worked with us in the past. They actually lowered their prices a couple of years ago to keep in that range. So,
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
all right. Anything else? All right. Move to adjourn to the main meeting.
So moved.
Got a motion, got a second? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, let's go vote.
Stunek,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes. All right. We are adjourned and see you guys in about 9 minutes or less.
See you on the other side.
Yeah.